The Disney Channel was one of the largest launches in cable history. 5 million homes across the country had access to the channel on April 18th, 1983, with an expected 8 million subscribers by the end of the year. But it almost didn't happen, because the Disney company was still locked in the old ways of what would Walt do. But here's the story of how it did happen, with executive Jim Jamiro.
Look, every industry has its own community, its own leaders, its own its own culture, and I believe that Walt always went his own way in a lot of ways, and the Disney, because it was a lot of animation, because it was family entertainment, because they invented the theme park business, that they operated to a certain limited extent in their own sphere. And I remember Michael Eisner, when he came in 1984, was 84 or 85? 85. No, 84. My God, time goes fast. He came in 84, September of 84. I remember him saying at a speech somewhere, I was sitting on the head table with him, and he said that he was going to come over the hill. And what he meant by that is he was going to leave Burbank for lunch and come over the hill to meet with the agents, to meet with the other power brokers in Hollywood. In other words, he was saying that the days of relative isolation of Disney were going to be over, and it was going to be more of a player within the broader community. I was running a division that was at that point licensing movies to other media, and we were licensing movies to Showtime and to HBO, and we made some money doing that. But I also learned during that period how important those Disney movies were to those pay services. I combined that information with the fact that pay television and cable distributed television had a totally different economic model than broadcast television. And that economic model was such that there was going to be room for the Disney Channel. In other words, it's academic for me to say this, but I think if there hadn't been cable, there probably wouldn't have been a Disney Channel on broadcast, competing with CBS in that sense. But there was a whole different economic model when it came to pay television, which was just emerging, and I saw or believed that model made it totally viable for Disney to have its own channel. And yes, I did propose the idea of the Disney Channel to the company in 1977, in May of 1977. At that point, it was a very modest proposal because at that point there weren't even satellites. There were no satellites in 1977. So what was going on, people were bicycling 16 millimeter films around from cable company to cable company. So I was talking about a very small operation that would kind of just grow with the industry. They turned that down. At that point, they were really wrestling with Epcot and so many other things that they were trying to get done. Tokyo Disneyland, I think, was on the horizon at that point. So I kept at it for 5 years. I mean, at that time, I also started Walt Disney Home Video in 1979 or 1980. That was a money machine right away, but I still believed in the concept of the Disney Channel. I kept going to Clark and saying, look at these numbers, look at these opportunities, and we really should take a look at this. And finally, in early 1980s, they gave the go-ahead. At that point, the industry had completely matured. There were cable, there were satellites, and so forth, so that the price of entry had gone up dramatically. We had to look like a real full network at that point. We couldn't just kind of put our toe in the water. So the price of entry had gone up dramatically. However, it didn't matter because the channel threw off so much money so fast that that initial investment didn't really make much difference. For reasons that I don't completely understand, Card, wanted some kind of a joint venture, and I remember really playing both sides of the street on that. And I was always loyal to Card, and I've had a wonderful relationship with him. We would go back to New York and negotiate this deal with Westinghouse, and then I'd come back and say, Card, this is, it's our name, it's our product, it's our marketing talent, and why are we, why would we do this? And basically, I never thought it was a good idea, but I remember really having the icing on the cake when somebody at Westinghouse says, "Well, we got a joint venture here. What are we going to call this channel? Should we call it Carousel or something like that?" And I thought, where have I gone wrong here? I mean, it's a Disney Channel. Get the greatest name in family entertainment. So that's what convinced me. I mean, everything convinced me, but yeah, it was something that I really hated from the company's point of view, and I finally prevailed in that. And I think obviously today nobody would like to have 50% of the Disney Channel if they could have 100% of it. Well, it was a lot of fun. We had three pillars to the programming. We had programming from the existing Disney library, which was about a third of the programming. This is from day one. We had acquisitions. That was about a third of the programming, and then we had new productions, which was a third of the programming. And even though Disney is a great studio, the library at Disney is not enormous. I mean, it's not enormous in the MGM sense. It's plenty big, but it's nothing like MGM, for example. So we had a lot of product, but once you start programming a 24-hour-a-day network, a lot of product doesn't become a lot of product anymore. So when we launched the channel on April 18th of 1983, we had, I think, 13 brand new original daily productions on that channel on day one. And I remember the 2 or 3 or 4 months before we launched the channel, we had every post-production studio in town in Los Angeles was devoted to doing Disney programming. So we had a lot of original things, including programs that we did live from Epcot, not live, but live on tape from Epcot every day. Epcot Magazine, it was called. So, and that was fun. I mean, it was a lot of fun. We did our first made-for-TV movie in the summer of '83, the very summer that we launched, called Tiger Town with Roy Scheider, and that movie won the Cable Award for the best original movie of all time in October. So we got a really great award 6 months after we launched. So that was a lot of fun. Well, we were just looking for anything that fit the family format, movies, G-rated movies, G-rated series, anything that fit in with the mission of Disney Channel families, and there were a lot of movies out there, animated things and things like that. Epcot Magazine, which was on every day from Epcot, was certainly designed to be an interesting program, but also to promote Epcot. But I would also hope, in retrospect, that Epcot was a marketing tool for the Disney Channel, because the concept of Disney was everything supports and is supported by everything else. So that when we opened the Disney Channel, Main Street in Disneyland, the windows in those shops. Can you picture that? Okay, so we got those windows. So if you walked to Disneyland in April 1983, instead of there being an advertisement for what merchandise was in there, there were advertisements for the Disney Channel. So that was part of, the classic synergy of Disney. Synergy was the hallmark at Disney. And we were always told, Jim, you're not in the Disney Channel business, or Irving, you're not in the Disney theatrical business, you're in the Disney business. And the concept of that is that the consumer doesn't know the difference. The consumer who goes to a Disney movie is likely to subscribe to the Disney Channel, is likely to go to Disneyland, is likely to buy Disney merchandise. So that single entity was always the hallmark. I think that probably the reason you asked the question that way is because Epcot was new at that time and needed a lot of support, and we were all asked to work toward, helping Epcot get off the ground.